Oftentimes, parents, especially mothers, play a large part in guiding and shaping a child into an adult. Like many people, my mother was instrumental in who I am and who I've yet to become. Even though the premise and top of my speech may seem a little bit cliche, I feel that the particular path and end result of my mother's role in my life is anything but. My mother is a woman unlike any other. I know a lot of people would say the same exact thing, and I'm sure to them it's true, but for me, she just was something entirely special. My goal for the next couple of minutes is really just explain why I think my mother is the best lady on this earth. She's kind, compassionate, hardworking, and crazy funny. She's my mom, and I'm going to do my best to do her justice. My mother has been a force since birth, at least according to my aunt, my grandmother. My mother was the baby, with a sister 7 years older, and following the stillborn of who would have been another older sister. So you could say she was a miracle because she was. From the stories I've heard, my mother didn't quite appreciate the older sister that sometimes acted like the second mother. My aunt's mothering habits led my mother to giving herself horrible haircuts in her attempt to keep her sister out of her hair, and my favorite, almost getting hit by an ice cream truck when she decided not to listen to her sister when she said to stay in the house while she went to get the ice cream. I was raised in a single parent home for as long as I can remember, but I can never really remember a time that I felt that I was lacking in any way. When I reminisce on my early years, all I remember is her surprising me in the middle of the day to go to the fair, or picking me up and bringing me treats in the form of donuts. If I ever got sick during a school day, she was there to pick me up. If I ever had to bake 25 cupcakes for class the next day, she was there. My mother has allergies, like bad ones, like where's the protective air bubble? She is allergic to oxygen and we need to get her now. But for all the times I'd see her feeling sick and struggling with them, she never let it take her away from work or away from taking care of me. So I'm really thankful to her for that. My mother was the definition of tough love, but at the same time, she was really kind and understanding. I'll never understand how she really got that balance, but I really hope that I am the same way when I have children. I don't think I'll ever be sure how she did it, but it allowed me a chance to learn to stand on my own 2 feet and learn how to be my own person, but also know that when I didn't really feel like holding on by myself, I could lean on her whenever I needed it. If I were limited to 3 words to describe my mother, they would be resilient, hardworking, and compassionate. My mother's a giver. All she does is give. She gives all of herself into whatever she's doing, be it her business, her family, or to anyone in need. I can't even count the number of times we'd be driving down the street going somewhere and she would just pull over to McDonald's and I'd get super excited, like, yes, we're gonna get some food, but even if I've just eaten. But we'd go, she'd pick up all this stuff, like 3 bags full of food, and we'd end up turning around, making a U-turn, and giving the food to someone she'd seen that I hadn't even noticed that was like a homeless person. And in seeing that, it just made me realize, like, wow, what an awesome person she is. Because oftentimes we might see someone homeless and we'll be like, oh, you'll feel sympathy for them, you'll like pray for them, or you'll give them like $1 or $2. But how often do people really stop, like put their plans on pause, go get food, go around and give it to someone? And that just doesn't happen often. And I'm thankful to my mother for letting me see that and take a part in that. While other kids were obsessing over superheroes and TV shows, movies, and comics, I felt I was living with one. And when I became of age, she would tell me her true identity, and she would tell me where the secret lair was located in our tiny apartment, because obviously it was there somewhere. Growing up, my mother was always right until I reached the point that she wasn't anymore. And even now, sometimes I'm still not really convinced. To me, the most important thing my mother ever gave me was a voice, a right time opinion. But it wasn't until I was really old that I realized that I had that ability. My mother told me time and again growing up that she wasn't always right, that she wasn't perfect, that she made mistakes, but in my head I was always thinking that's what all the perfect people say, so I never really took her seriously. I'm pretty sure she hates when I tell this story, but it was a pretty pivotal moment in my life, so I continue to tell it to everybody who listen. Once when I was reading a book, I had to be like maybe 8 or 9, and I asked her how to pronounce a word, and she told me, but I remember she was like, oh, I'm not completely sure, but I didn't take her seriously because she doesn't get anything wrong. Either way, for 6 years I mispronounced that word, and all because she told me that this was how it was said. It wasn't her fault, like obviously I should have known to check again. But either way, I'll never forget the moment I was sitting in my 10th grade English class and my teacher was reading. She breezed right through that word, and then I was just sitting there like, oh my gosh, what that is how you pronounce the word. My mother was wrong. It just still doesn't make sense to me. But either way, I wasn't like most kids in the world, obviously. I didn't grow out of the my mother is perfection personified stage until I was really old. My mom is the driving force behind my desire to be successful. I mean, I want it for myself, obviously, but she is like what really gives me the need to do it. She's a good model of success and a chance to see the rewards that come out of hard work. I'm not sure many people have the opportunity to see firsthand the creation, startup, and carrying out of a business that was self-started, and it takes a lot of courage to be an entrepreneur, and it's not a very common thing, but I was lucky enough to see it because of her, be a part of it, and know that the option is there for me too. My mother sacrificed a lot to get me into the best schools and to get me where I am today. When the opportunity came up to pay homage to someone who has affected my life in a big way, there was absolutely no chance that I would ignore everything she's ever done and pay tribute to someone else, even though she told me to go with a less obvious tribute. Whatever. Without her guidance and her trailblazing, I'm not sure I'd be where I am today, and I'm thankful for that and for her. Thanks, Mom. Okay, that's it.